Assalamu alaikum. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. We're starting in a few minutes.
While it might have seemed like a far-fetched idea 8 years ago, nowadays I think most everyone here agrees that it isn't just about Silicon Valley anymore. Innovation and talent really do exist everywhere, in all corners of the world. Whether it's here in Silicon Valley or San Francisco, Mexico, Egypt, India, Vietnam, Turkey, or Korea, entrepreneurs are changing these ecosystems, changing technology, and they're ultimately fueling a lot of the economic growth in their respective markets.
The world is taking notice. A leading global venture capital firm called 500 Startups just launched a $10 million fund here in Ho Chi Minh City.
As 500 Startups, we are a global fund. Since our mandate from the beginning has been to empower entrepreneurs from all over the world, the most unlikely places and the most unlikely founders that don't look like the typical prototype Silicon Valley founder.
A lot more than $1 billion now, annualized run rate. Wow. Some mistakes that I've learned throughout my years in tech, and I don't want to repeat that again.
We started VC Unlock because training investors is a very, very important part of ecosystem development.
Tech is a force that can unite nations. Trade has always stopped us from killing each other, and accelerated trade can help us love each other even more. That's what I believe in, and I think that a lot of cross-border kind of investments and culture can really help bring that true.
Thank you everyone for joining. We're starting the webinar and I'm starting our guest speaker in a bit. Before that, allow us to just give you a very quick introduction and very smooth introduction about 500 and our team here, and especially our accelerator that is kicking off next September. Thank you for those who applied for the curriculum, for the program, and we're so excited for the ones who are going to apply for the next batch. Our program is going to kick off on the 26th of September. The applications is closed now, but we're happy to take your interest form as you are seeing to apply. Just a quick glimpse about 500 and the VC. It's the most active VC globally and the #1 most exit also in the MENA region. We have invested in more than 23 unicorns. We are focusing on uplifting people and economy through entrepreneurship. Most of the, according to Magnet, since the last 9 years, we have invested more than 30 million invested in $1 million in MENA. 14 countries have participated in our program since the last couple of years, and we have helped accelerate more than 53 companies. Just to give you a glimpse of the program overview, We had great applications from the last batch and the previous one. Over 500 applied, and we have over now, we are accepting for the next batch 15 to 20 startups that we're happy to announce by the end of the year. The competition is amazing, and the nature of the startups are really exciting, and that's why we encourage you all to join the batch for the next year, inshallah, for the next batch. So for the batch one, I don't know if you have seen the demo day, but you have it on YouTube and you can access it easily. The demo day talks about, the startups who are pitching and the amazing collection of 4 countries and more than that who joined us in different sectors and industries. The program basically where we're aiming at the accelerator is to focus on building a strong foundation, activate your growth engine. Also, we're focusing on providing capital, education, and community most of all. A 12 weeks program helps accessing you to the 500 learning and materials, unlimited offer of mentor office hours, and office hours with the investors. The program schedule basically conduct of these 4 modules, fundamentals of growth, growth weeks, experimentation, and finally, the finance and fundraising. The program schedule, as we said, it's going to kick off on the 26th, and the demo day, inshallah, for this batch is going to be mid-December. So stay tuned for us when we announce. Application is now closed, but we're happy to take the interest form. We'll be sharing the link here as well in the chat. And let's welcome our next speaker now, Liv. You're on mute.
Doesn't matter how many times you do these meetings, you still forget to
You're
mute.
still on mute.
All right, let's give Dash a minute just so she can pulls up her content and get ready.
Perfect. We can take some questions if anyone have any question over the program, the accelerator, and we're sharing here that on the chat, the interest form for you to apply for the next batch, inshallah. Okay, we're sharing here in the chat. Okay, Asad is asking if all second round interviews are done. We're still conducting second round of interviews. It's still not done. Thank you. So the next batch starts on the 26th of September. And basically you can, those who are accepted in the accelerator, they're going to participate. And we're happy to invite whoever is going to attend for the demo day, which is happening in December.
Okay, there we go. I think all of you should be able to see me now, correct?
Yes, perfect. Welcome, welcome.
Okay, thank you for having me. Hello, everybody, and thank you, Bayan. I'm seeing.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah, of course. So I'm hoping that all my sound is correct. You can hear me.
Yes, very clear.
Awesome. All right. So I'm just going to get ready to bring up my presentation. So just give me one moment here.
Amazing.
Share screen. Here we go. 1%. And I think I see Sama here. Sama, long time no see. So great to see a familiar face.
I know. I'm so excited. How are you? I miss you so
Wow.
much.
Let's see here. I think I can take off my, I'll leave my earphones on. I think that's where my mic is. Thank you everyone for welcoming me here. It's so great to be back doing work in the MENA region again. It's been quite a while since I was over in Riyadh in Saudi. For those of you who might not know, please bear with me today because I am a little jet lagged. I just got back from Seoul, South Korea. And so I'm going to do my best to bring my usual energy. And today's session is going to be a little bit under 40 minutes, actually probably a little bit less, so that the latter half of this session is all about questions. Feel free to ask me anything. For those who might not be familiar with me, my name is Tash Jeffries. I've been an entrepreneur in residence with 500 now since 2019. And I did one of the inaugural programs right in the region, launching in Riyadh for 3 batches until, of course, the pandemic hit. But now I still do entrepreneur in residence work globally. Just finished a program in Russia, I've done work on the China programs across the US as well. And so now I'm happy to be back here with you. I love doing work related to marketing and content. So that's what you're going to get from me today. We're going to go through content creation and distribution 101. And again, I want to make sure it's relevant. Feel free to ask questions the whole way around. I don't like to just talk at you. Dave, if you could keep an eye on the questions, and as they come up, feel free to just go ahead and interrupt me so that we can answer them on the spot as well.
I got you.
Awesome. So, and I think it's going on its own. So let's stop that from happening. Here we go. What we're going to go over today is marketing and content in a COVID-19 and post-COVID world, because let's face it, it's moving on pretty quickly. So we need to be ready for those changes. Why a content distribution strategy is necessary. Where do you start? We're going to talk about the different types of content that you can have, and then some best tools to make sure that you can distribute your content as simply and easily as possible. And there's going to be some best-in-class examples sprinkled along the way. And of course, we'll do a bigger Q&A at the end of the session. So while we all know, and from what I hear as well across Saudi, COVID is passing away, people are getting vaccinated, and life is getting back to a new set of normal. But let's all remember that while we're coming out of this pandemic, we're still not completely out of the woods. So when it comes to your content, there are some things that you still need to keep in mind. It's going to look slightly different than it was in the heat of the pandemic, before we knew what was going on and before we knew how it could spread, how to get through it, before there was a vaccine. So let's talk about that briefly, because it's super important. Now, when we were on lockdown, we were literally inside our homes unless we had to go out for food or for doctor's appointments and essential services. And so now that we're out of that and we're getting back to being around, being socializing again, being back in the office, what we're finding is that there's actually a new type of stress and anxiety that is arising. And a lot of people are actually now dealing with the fear of socializing and being out in the public. And you know, we've got the Delta variant and maybe some others that might sprout up. So there's a lot of uncertainty. So when you're talking about the content for your business, it's super important. We need to keep that in mind. We need to keep in mind where people are and what they're dealing with. And let's face it, even if we are back in the office and around people again and socializing, Zoom fatigue and working from home, it's real. Like getting overwhelmed with always being on Zoom. And I know that's why we're here today and why I'm asking for some questions as we go along, because our goal now is to make sure that in this new working situation, this hybrid world that we're now having to operate in, we can still make things as engaging and as real and energetic as possible. And so we need to make sure, again, we understand where people are at and what they're dealing with. No matter what your solution and your tech startup is and what you're working on, we still need to keep that in mind because it impacts all of us. And one of the things that you're going to have to look at when you're building your own content strategies is that you're literally going to have to consider what you're creating as your content to be a painkiller. How do you relieve your customers of some of that anxiety, of some of that fatigue, of some of the challenges that they're dealing with in their everyday lives? Now, the funny thing is, you might think, oh, well, I'm a tech startup, or maybe you're a B2B business, and so this doesn't apply to me. But the truth of the matter is, it doesn't matter B2B, B2C, whether you're working with corporates or whether you're working with small business, you're still going to have to consider in your content, you have to provide some type of relief. And it doesn't matter what kind of startup or what kind of business that you're working on. That's going to be your challenge through this talk, is for you to think about where's the pain relief that you can offer in your content and in your solutions and what you're providing online that helps people find you. And one of the best ways that you can do that is to put yourself in your customer's shoes and build your content from their point of view. What are they dealing with? What are their biggest challenges? What do you think they're searching you out for? How are you able to help them? And the reason being is that if you can answer those basic questions, it's going to be easier for you to be able to build content that draws them in, that helps them find you, that makes it easier for you to show up and be in their line of sight online, or even in person as well. This, what we're going through today is mainly online solutions, but the same process can be used for offline solutions as well. So why are content distribution strategies necessary? I'm going to give you some of the high level ones, but I'm sure you can even think of some outside of these, because there's so many reasons why you need to have a distribution strategy. One of the biggest ones, anyone who has done my programs or listened to me speak before knows that one of my favorite sayings is, how do you actually grow your business? How do you achieve growth? How do you achieve profitability? It's talking to your customers. And so in order for you to be able to build that distribution strategy online, you need to know who your customers are and know your personas. And that will help you to be able to craft a story that speaks specifically to them. So I love using this as an example. It's a company called Good Food here in Canada. But one of the things that they know that I am literally one of their biggest potential customers. I'm very busy. I like things to be simple and easy. I love eating healthy meals. So what's one of the first things that they do? When you go on their website, you usually see some fresh, healthy foods for meals. You show the box and lots of greens, lots of healthy things for your body. And so they know that in order for me to consider a service like theirs, you need to show me what's in your box. You need to show me what's in it for me. And so you need to think about that same kind of perspective for your business. What are some of the images that you need to think of that are going to help draw your customers in? What are the words that you need to use to be able to bring them in and at least consider you and try you? And again, everything is all about getting a call to action so that you can actually retain one of those potential prospects for your business. So you need to make sure that you have a story that's going to draw in and specifically speak to your target customers. And if you've not yet created your target personas, you need to. And that's probably going to be a session for another day. So let's presume that you do understand who they are. So now you have your customer persona, you know what they want to hear. One of the things that having a distribution strategy helps you with is it helps you to scale your efforts. And what this usually means is that you can create one piece of content, and then depending on where your customers actually live online, you can take that one piece of content and shared across multiple networks, which means that you have more chances to be able to get right in front of your ideal customer. So for instance, let's say you are doing something in B2C and you're working with millennial women, for instance. You can create one piece of content, but then you can think about the places where they're probably living, which are more than likely Facebook, Instagram, and in some cases also for the MENA region, maybe WhatsApp. You can create that one piece of content and then be able to spread it out to multiple platforms so that more people have a potential of seeing your content. So you make once and then let it go out and distribute. Another important reason why you need that distribution strategy is because you can literally sell your product or service as you sleep. And on top of this, if you're focusing on maybe not just in the MENA region, but you actually have a service that's online that can be used anywhere across the globe, well, you can reach people in many different time zones, many different countries as you need to, so that you're not just managing it on a one-to-one basis and people can find content when it's most convenient for them. So this is why another reason why you need this distribution strategy, so that you know how and when and where to put things out so people can get the info as they want it. Another thing that you can do when you have this distribution strategy is that you can batch your content and automate it. So for instance, I already mentioned how you can do one piece of content and have it go on multiple channels. Well, you can actually create a lot of content at one time when you feel that creative burst and you feel like doing some videos or creating some posts or doing some artistic kind of things. You can create it all at once and then upload it so that it can roll out over the next week, 2 weeks, or even months, and have that content that's ready to go, so that, again, you're not taking time out of every single day to be able to post that content. And so once you see the tools that we talk about in this session, you can actually look at creating an overarching strategy. And maybe you have themes across days or across weeks or for special events. I know that Eid is a time of year in the Middle East where, that's a time for people gathering and getting together. And so you can actually have focus and actually do Eid Mubarak in your messages and things that capture people and know that things are still timely. But you can program it ahead of time so that it's convenient for you and your team. And last but not least, we mentioned this before, but it's still super important. And it's about letting your customers consume content as they like it. And I always give the example of Joe Rogan. He is a podcaster, but he's also making really good money doing what he does, because he does one video stream that he records for his interviews with his guests, but then he redistributes that content as a blog post on Twitter, as a standalone podcast, and the video cast, of course, which goes on YouTube. But what it means is that depending on how you prefer to consume your content, maybe you're driving and so you don't have a chance to watch video, so you can listen to the podcast. Or if you actually want to see your guests or his guests, you can watch the YouTube. But he's been able to take one stream and be able to multi-purpose it across numerous channels so that his customers can use that content however they see fit and can fit it into their schedule. And again, they can also read the transcript for those guests as well. So I want you to think of your content in the same kind of stream. How do your customers best want to connect with you or connect with the expertise that you're providing on your website or your social media channels? And keep that in mind as you go to think about how you want to distribute your work. And this is huge. Let's help your customers solve pressing problems. I love using Canva because this is also one of our portfolio companies. So I love to bring it back home here. One of the great things about Canva is that it really solves a problem. If you are paying a marketing team to create things as you need it, but you need something done on the fly, they created an entire platform that allows you to create highly professional looking materials, marketing materials, visual products that you can do in a matter of minutes or hours, not even hours now. You can create almost anything, even slide decks in like minutes. And so they really solved a problem for their customer, who I would be one as well, a professional who's creating things on the fly. And you don't want to have to go outside and wait 24, 48 hours to get something in return, when you can just enter your content and create it and get it yourself in a matter of minutes. So make sure for your business and your solution that you're able to do something like that that's really needed. Because once you have that and you solve that problem for your customers, there are some people like me, for instance, I'm like, if you can help me create something that looks professional in minutes, I'll pay you whatever. Like, price is not an option. And that's always something that you want to be working towards in your startup, so that you're not competing with people on your competitors on product. People love how you solve their problems for them, and they keep coming back for more. So how do you get started with your specific content and what you're creating? One of the things I want to say right up front that you should all be thinking of when you're creating your content is that, even though I love talking about podcasts and video casts and having like multimedia in your content, you all should still be having at least some written blog posts, white paper content, because at the end of the day, how Google and search engines index is always about your words that are used in your articles. And it helps you with your SEO, which is your search engine optimization, which is that something that helps if people are searching for keywords related to your industry. It's going to help make sure that you pop up. So it means that you should still, even if you decide to use multimedia, you should still have some written content that you're able to leverage to make sure that you can still get found in your searches and that customers can find you, because that's what this is all about, helping it make it easier for customers to find you online. So let's go through the major types of content that you can consider using. So video is always a great one. And again, I love starting with video because you can multi-purpose it. You can use the video feed, which is the visual feed. You can also use the audio portion and use that as a podcast or a recording that you can then provide later. And then you can also use the transcript, so the verbal content that you're doing in those videos. It's really great for marketplaces, for anything that uses visual services that you need to do walkthroughs, or anything that is a little bit complicated, because you can always use video to help explain people and make it easier for onboarding, especially with your product. So if you have something that needs a learning curve, then I would suggest adding video to your repertoire. Webinars and live streams are also in that vein, where if you have anything that requires some teaching and onboarding for your solution, webinars and live streams can be a great way to be able to help onboard many people at the same time and be able to optimize your time as well as your customers' time. And the questions that usually come in, no different from one that we're doing right now, is going to be able to help multiple people at the same time. You can then repurpose that recording and also make that available to your customers. And it's always great for anything that requires consulting or some specific expertise that you and your team offer. Images, again, if you have products, anything that has something visual to it, then you want to make sure that you use images. And we're going to go through some more additional tools that you can use to help build images. And again, they work across all social media platforms as well for you to be able to distribute your content. And believe it or not, it also works well for B2B SaaS products when you have images. Maybe it's something motivating. Maybe it's something that's inspiring as well that you can create. So even though it works great for products so that you can showcase it, get creative and think about other types of content that you can use images for that help to connect people to your solution and the problem that you're solving and show that you are here to help. Podcasts, anything that's highly technical, or if you have experts in your company or experts in partnering organizations that you work with, this is also a potential solution for you, because it's a great way for you to get additional visibility. And also it's a really good tool if you are trying to grow your audience and maybe one of your partners has a much larger audience than you do. Partners are usually looking for experiences and opportunities to be able to showcase their own expertise. So if that's something that's very common and related in your field, in your work, then that's something that you can consider doing as well. And of course, articles, blogs, white papers, simple postings. And again, I would suggest, if you can, leverage some existing channels. Medium is one where you can create blog posts for thought leadership. LinkedIn is another common one that everybody is on, and you probably already have a built-in audience with your connections. And if you actually apply, they have an ability on LinkedIn now where you can actually become a broadcaster if you plan on using video and audio in your work, where you can actually start scheduling live events and even things like webinars and live streams across their platform. So where you feel comfortable, look at actually leveraging these platforms to be able to use all types of content and not just one. But make sure you do have articles, blogs, something written content that links you and your business to the keywords for what your potential customers would be searching for. And last but not least, talk to your customers. Always get the feedback from them to make sure that you're on the right track and make sure that they are connecting with the content that you're producing. Do not produce your content and then just leave it in a vacuum. Get feedback. Ask your customers what they thought of what you put out, because their feedback is going to help you continue to improve the quality of the content that you're putting out. And always be testing. I know that a lot of people aren't comfortable doing audio or even doing video because you have to go through a big production to get it prepared. But I suggest, you know what, the scarier it is, the more likely that you're going to get a bigger return from being able to do it. So I'd say always test new things, especially if you find that things are stagnating online and you're not getting enough users or readers or visitors to your site. Try something new and see if something new can actually work for you. All right, so now you know which formats there are, but how do you know what to create? So here are some ideas that are quite common for startups to be able to use. And I have little examples here. You have case studies, which are especially great if you're in B2B, but you can also use it for B2C, where you're actually talking about experiences of, here's the problem that a customer had. This is how they came to you and the solution that you provided. And then here's the results. It's usually very simple, but it's a great way to visualize and talk about a problem that one of your customers had. And most importantly, talk about the results that you helped them get. Because what that does is it helps your potential customers to actually envision themselves being in that similar position and also relating to that story. And so it's really important because it's almost like you're giving your potential customers a test drive at what it's like to work with you or to have your solution. And again, it's all about you showcasing your results. So if you have a product or service that is giving your customers great results, this is your way to be able to highlight that and let it shine. Testimonials are very similar as well, where it does the same. It gives you a chance to actually showcase what your customers are saying about you. So if you have a very good rating, if people have great things to say, like for here, we can see, again, good food. I love this company, so I showcase it a lot. You've got simple testimonials saying, love it. Completely changed the way I eat, spotlights on ingredients. So again, I'm the target customer, they're talking directly to me. And this is from another person who I can actually say, if they're saying it and they loved it, I'm probably going to too. And so these words you can use from your existing cheerleaders who love what you're doing to help them solve their problem. A lead magnet is a great one, and this is one that can actually be simple to create. It's usually something like maybe on things to do related to the industry that you're in, or maybe it's a checklist. Very simple one pager that people can, if they give their email address, they become your lead and they get some simple tips that can help them related to the solution that you provide. And these are great because it means that even if you have people coming to your site and they might not buy right away or use your product or service right away, they now become a lead and they're getting something valuable in exchange for you being able to communicate with them. So if you found that you're getting a lot of hits to your website, but you're not really getting people buying right away, you want to consider using a lead magnet as a way to actually capture more leads from that traffic that's coming to you. And again, this is why I love simple tools. A tool like Canva can help you do a simple lead magnet because they have so many templates that you can use from, where you can simply insert your logo, insert your colors, your brand colors, and have it still look and feel like something that's a part of your site within a matter of minutes. And again, blog posts are super helpful. Again, for people who are searching and looking for timely information, use a really great title. Make sure that it's catchy to the eye. If there's an ability to use an image, like on LinkedIn, if you're doing blog posts, you can use an image that speaks to your content. Use small paragraphs. Do not make a whole paragraph, a super long page of content. Break it up so that it's easy on the eye and makes it very attractive for readers to go through. And even if they're skimmers, because I'm a skimmer, skimmers can still get the main points. Use bullet points when you're doing it as well. And if there's anything really important, like a main takeaway, like I usually do posts where if you remember nothing at all, remember this line. So when you're doing that, make sure you bold it or quote it so that that's the eye-catching piece that you want people to remember. And I've put a few of my favorites here as well. A simple yet highly effective digital filing method. For someone who's always online and looking for digital media strategies, of course I want to see this. Less than 30 minutes to set it up across all your platforms. And you can see here, LinkedIn also helps you to do this, where you can actually see how long it actually takes to read it. So where you can, again, because we're all skimmers and just time is at such a priority and it's so valuable, make sure that you're creating small, simple, easy to read pieces. Try not to write things that are an hour or more because most people don't have that time. And also, you don't want to waste your time creating this content that no one's going to consume. Make it bite-sized, easy to digest pieces. And of course, we talked about webinars. Webinars are great because it allows you a one-to-many speaking opportunity where you can have, just like on this call, you can have multiple people and disseminate a lot of important and invaluable information about your product or solution. And you can record it, you can repurpose it, you can break down specific pieces and actually reuse that content over and over. And it's also great if you find that you're getting similar questions that your customers are asking multiple times, then you can actually use the webinar to be able to answer those questions. And again, place those answers to the questions on your website. So you can make the content once and keep reusing the content over and over, which is why we love webinars and live streams so much. And let's remember, in this day and age, you always need to think of how are you actually getting that message out there, because there's so much competition. We're now in a day and age where you can't just put something out or even create a really unique piece of technology and think that you don't have competition. There is always going to be competition. So you need to find a way to cut through the noise and to make something really engaging so that it goes right to your target customer and they are engaged and want to know you, want to work with you, want to use your solution, and most importantly, want to get the results that you are providing with your solution. So Best content ideas, where do they come from? This is really key. If you don't remember anything else, please remember this page. Talk to your customers. Your customers are going to help you figure out what they want to hear, what is most helpful, what are the questions that they ask you the most. Those are going to be the basis around what you create for your content. And then you can take that and turn it into videos, podcasts, blogs, lead magnets, posts, white papers, testimonials, you name it. You can turn that content into things that then go and help other customers. So talk to your customers. They're going to be your best source for your ideas for what it is you do in your content distribution strategy. Another big thing that you can do is if you have customers who are willing to talk to you, if you have a cheerleader, one of your customers you've been able to give great results to, take a testimonial and turn it into a promo video. Again, you can use some very simple platforms. There's a video platform called Animoto where you can take any customer video and turn it into a really nice promo or an ad or something that you can use on your website or across social media that literally is able to amp up their own words about why they love working with you or why they love your solution. Another key is if you do know who your competitors are, take a look what they're writing about. And then you take one of those key topics and you make it better. And this has actually been a very useful strategy, especially if you're stuck as to what to write about. Take a look at your competitor's point of view. And of course, the reason that you started what you're doing is because you're different from your competitor. So you can take that same topic and now write it from your perspective for your solution, for what you think is best for your prospective customer, and then be able to post that. Showing people how to use simple and more advanced features in your product. So if you do have a complicated platform or something that does take education to use, you can actually create some simple walkthroughs or simple videos or even simple audios that can direct people with some screenshots or screencasts to be able to show them how to maximize the product. So especially if you have a higher price point for what you're selling, this is a way to make sure that people get the most value out of what it is that you're offering so that they love what you're doing and they get maybe some extra bonus pieces that are nice to have, maybe not a lot of people use, but for that proportion of your customers who want something and want to like really get the full value of your product, that video that you can make or that walkthrough or screencast can help you make some really stellar customers and cheerleaders who love your brand and love what you're doing. And there are so many other sources. Again, we're going to wrap up soon so that you can actually ask me questions and talk about maybe what you might be struggling with your own content and come up with solutions on the spot. Because I'm all about being creative and making sure that you move forward and you're experiencing the growth and your own startup in business. So now's the point where I'm just going to simply give you some tools that you can use as you're creating your content. So for visual images, I've already mentioned it. Canva is one of my favorites. We've also got another one called GIMP and then PicMonkey. All of them are very visual, easy to use, mostly drag and drop. And unless you start becoming a power user, most of them are free for you. Dave, can you help me out? I think I see some questions coming in the Q&A there.
Exactly. So Noor is asking, there are so many content ideas out there that we can get inspiration from. How do I choose, prioritize the relevance?
Perfect. Great question, Noor. So one of your first things that you're going to do is you are actually going to think about who are your ideal customers. If you know who your customer personas are, then you're going to think of everything from their point of view. You're going to be focused. You're not going to go and scatter for everyone. You're going to think of who are those people that you service first with your product or solution. And then you're going to narrow right down. And the more specific that you can get on your customer personas, it's going to make you a lot better at narrowing down the types of content you want to create, the platforms you're going to play on, and like what it is you're going to be messaging around. So I'd say before you start getting overwhelmed by all the different ideas out there, go right back to your customer. Talk to your existing customers. Ask them what would they have liked to see before they actually started using your product. And between those discussions, you're probably going to get enough to be able to then focus you down and narrow down what types of content you should be creating, the platforms you should be playing on as well. Great question. And please, if there's any others, continue. I will go through these because this is now just the sites that you can use, but we'll open it up to full questions in a few minutes here. For your written content or your blog, especially if you've got a lot of traffic to your own website, use your own website and just have a blog page. But if you don't have that already, LinkedIn is great because you can leverage your existing network. And also it is set up there where if you start publishing on LinkedIn and you're a regular content creator, LinkedIn will actually start promoting for you. And they will do that for free. I've gotten more eyes on my content through the algorithms on LinkedIn by creating really good, helpful content than any other social media site, quite honestly. And then your last one is medium.com, which is if you are trying to be a thought leader in your industry and you want other thought leaders as well to pick you up and to get on their radar, then that's a great site for you to use. Oh, and I see a question here from Mona. Are there any tools for better targeting? Mona, can you be more specific? Or I feel like you're talking about targeting to your direct personas, correct? And if that's so, one of the things that I would say, okay, great. So that is what you're looking for. Depending on the platforms you use for your audience, if you're using Facebook, Facebook actually already does the targeting for you. If you know who your customer persona is, you can go on Facebook or Instagram and you can literally like target right down to their interests. What are they interested in? What kind of work are they doing? Income levels. Facebook and Instagram will let you target right down to that. So I'd say if you know that your target personas are on those platforms, just use the existing tools because those are usually the easiest ways to get it. Other than that, you can also do similar as well on if you're using Google Ads. Their platform is also set up so that you can actually use some targeting and be able to get into specific audiences. If you have any other platforms you're using, I can probably give you some ideas as well. So you can ask if there are, and I'll give you some tools for targeting. But the great thing about social media is most platforms now are said to at least help you to be able to target down to region, gender, age groups, income levels, professions, interests, because that's what social media is for. Marketers are using that to be able to really target down and define their target audiences. So most of the settings are already there for you to be able to use that. Great, another great question.
Tash, we got a few more questions actually.
Sure. Let's,
So,
you know what? 1 second, Dave. Let me just, because I think there's only 3 more pages here to go through.
oh, perfect.
I'm going to do these and then we'll go through all of the questions so we can leverage the last 15 minutes of the class here. So if you're doing audio content, audacity.org is a great platform to use. And then that's for creating it. SoundCloud is where you can post it. And you can also use iTunes for distribution on that as well. And then for video content, these are my favorites: Instagram, YouTube, Zoom as well for live streams and webinars, and then Animoto if you're making ads and very short video content or testimonials or things of that nature. We talked about distribution tools, so I wanted to mention these quickly. My favorite is Hootsuite because it's simple. If you only have 3 platforms or less that you're posting to, use it because it's free. Planoly is another one. Planable is also great for visual content, especially if you're using Instagram. And then we've got sproutsocial.com. And all of these platforms allow you to do content calendars so that you can batch that content and then again distribute it according to the schedule and calendar that you need to reach your audience. And then here's my last set of tips, and then we're going to go straight to your questions. Batch create your content. If you are feeling creative and you feel like, oh, there's a bunch that you want to tell to your ideal target customers, just create it, like write it, do an audio, do video, however you like to create, and then figure out ways of cutting that content down so that you can package it and put it on multiple posts up on social media. Create it as you're inspired. I know it's so hard. Sometimes you have to pull out things and it seems hard to create things for social media. So let your motivation and that creative juices, when you have it, create as much content as you can all at once when you're inspired. Create both evergreen and real-time content, which means evergreen content is things that will remain relevant over years. So think of it like food and nutrition. That pretty much stays, most of it stays the same. Drink lots of water, eat healthy greens. But then your real-time content is how do you boost your immune system in the time of COVID? So things that are specific to here and now. You'll need both of them to remain relevant for SEO purposes and remaining in the SEO searches as people are searching for you and your content. So don't forget both of those. And then create once and repurpose across multiple channels. So you can do one post and post it to Twitter, to Instagram, to Facebook, to YouTube at the same time if it's a short video clip. So be sure to leverage as many channels that your customers are on at once. And share it. That's what we have this network for. Share on Slack, share with your fellow cohort and team members where you can, so that they can also share your great content. And lastly, just do it. Just get to creating the content. I know it's sometimes hard to get going, but just make a point of creating the content so you can get going. And that is now it. Now it's your turn. All right, let's take those questions. Dave, thank you so much for holding. Thanks everyone for holding to get through the last few pages here. Now let's get to those questions.
Perfect. So I don't know which slide was he referring to, but he's asking if is copywriting better.
Is copywriting better? If you can also follow up to what that means is copywriting, because copywriting is pretty much what we're doing on all of the posts. Maybe they're referring to hiring a copywriter, but I would suggest that for your business, because you know it better than somebody else coming in, you create simple content and just, it's better for you to have it as the expert than getting a copywriter to do it. So yeah, that's my suggestion there.
All right. Ahmed is asking, when writing blogs, product reviews on a marketplace, does it matter if it's posted on a blog page or the product page itself? And what is the practice for SEO?
Got it. Okay, so think of it like this. If you are getting product reviews, there are ways to actually get it across multiple channels. For instance, on Google has its own marketplace. So if you don't already have it, I would highly suggest you leveraging that, because that way, if your products are listed through Google, then and as well as your own website or your own marketplace, what happens is Google will automatically index the reviews that are there. And you can set it up so that if you have any products or services, that you can actually get them listed through Google, which means that as people are buying your product and they're rating it, it literally starts to automatically get SEO'd and ranked in the search engines. So if you haven't checked that out yet, check it out. It's something that's been around for quite a while, but it's a really great way to make sure that you get SEO working in your favor, especially if you've got some great testimonials coming up. Great question, Ahmed. Thanks for that.
Yeah. First of all, he wants to thank you for your time.
Oh,
Second of all, he says Medium has an import option for blogs so that there aren't any issues when Google detecting which piece of content is the original. But for LinkedIn, is there a similar solution?
good question. You know what? I'm not sure if there is one for LinkedIn, but one of the things that I would suggest, if you're going to incorporate LinkedIn as your solution, I would always suggest that you don't do an import from your blog like you would on Medium. I would say for LinkedIn, you should probably be doing a separate take on whatever you have written on your blog. So it's a great place for you to actually do a spin on things. So if you've written one for Medium or you've written one for your own company blog, it's really good for you to have something separate on LinkedIn. It's indexed and it's a little bit different in the sense that the audience and how it works is it's got its own algorithm and its own ability to get ranked. And on LinkedIn itself, if you are doing original content on LinkedIn, LinkedIn will actually promote you. Medium, probably blogs, your own blog is your own blog, right? It's where you're putting your content. But I would highly suggest if you're doing something on LinkedIn that you try to do original content there, just because they've got their own algorithm and they promote differently than Medium would or help you find viewers like on your own blog page. So yeah, original content on LinkedIn, please. Thank you so much.
We have Noor. Noor wanted to pick your brain in terms of it being tricky to find that sweet spot between being like overly salesy and really authentic and genuine and engaging, especially when you target millennials and Gen Z.
Great question, Noor. And so honestly, my rule of thumb is always go authentic and always go to value. When you're writing pieces, try to either provide value or ask questions that your customers should be asking as it relates to your product or service. But if you're always trying to inform them and give them like value, it means that when you do go to actually do something salesy or provide a promo or provide a coupon or discount or something like that, they'll actually appreciate it, because when you're giving that much value, then people aren't going to mind when you actually sell to them once. So rule of thumb is that you should be giving value on, let's say, 6 pieces of your content, and then that 7th one is where you go salesy. But I agree, Noor, keep it authentic, engaging, and try to do it from a point of view like you're there to help your customer. And so then they won't mind when you do actually have to put on your sales hat and give them a pitch. Thanks so much. That's a great one.
Chanakya hi Chanakya. He has a question. So he says he's using multiple platforms like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Medium, but he also says there are like Clubhouse, Twitch, TikTok. So how is it important for a startup to use as many channels as possible?
Great question, Chanakya. And I'd say first thing you should do is think about your audience and where's your audience playing. So for instance, my audience and who I try to target are usually older than millennials. They tend to be on LinkedIn, and now they like Clubhouse. But I know that I would not find my target audience usually on Twitch or TikTok. So it really does go right back to your customers. Think about what channels they are. And I'd say instead of trying to be on all of the content channels, it's good for you to reserve the usernames related to your business on all the channels. But I'd say pick 3 channels, 4 channels max to be able to use, because once you start spreading yourself thin and trying to be, active on 5, 6, 7, 8 channels, then you're going to dilute your message, and it's going to be harder for you to actually hone in and target your customers and actually reach them. So my standard is usually 3. I pick 3 channels where I know my customers are going to be, and then optimize and just create really good content. And it's usually better for you to create a little bit less content that's higher value if you go that route, if you have a hard time keeping up with the pace on the social media channels. So I hope that helps. Yes, you do not have to be everywhere. Definitely not.
Thank you, Chanakya. Arthur here says, when it comes to online learning platforms, which content strategy works best?
Wow. That one's kind of broad, so I'm trying to think. For online learning platforms, I think online education, I'd say you should actually be thinking about video content, because when it comes to online learning, it's sometimes hard to just use like written content. Audio content as well, if you can do it, or screencasting. But as far as your content strategy would be, again, I'd go right back to who are your online customers? Who is actually buying your products? Who are you helping? And think about what's going to work best for them. That's usually the best way to answer any of those questions. And then once you know that, it's easier for you to build your strategy around who's actually tuning in and understanding where they play and where you can reach them. Sorry, Archer, that's a little bit broad, but hard to tell what it is that you're doing unless I know a little bit more.
Awesome. Lama's asking for advice. She says, when you have a B2B startup that has like highly technical, very wide products, like such an ERP with many, many models, what content distribution platform do you advise for, especially B2B startups like trying to enter the GCC?
Got it. That's another great question, Lama. The first thing I would say is, even if you have a very wide range of products, you really got to stick to what's the product that 80% of your customers are using. And then once you know what that product is, then provide a lot of walkthroughs, a lot of education, showing them how to maximize that product and showing them how to get the most value out of what that particular module is. And I'd say that it's for any of you who know the Pareto Principle, right? 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your customers. And so when you think about those customers who are returning, they love what you're doing, understand what products they're using the most and what they're getting the most value out of, and spend the majority of your time trying to figure that out and pushing that forward. And then also finding more customers like those ones. And so understanding what their challenges are, what their needs, what the value they're getting out of those pieces that you're maximizing, those are going to be your best bet for sure.
Perfect. Benice says, please help me in terms of understanding, create content for different buyers' personas and produce content in a suitable format.
Got it. So for that one, you want to think about who are your personas. So we had talked about it briefly earlier, where how old are they? What kind of work are they doing? Where are they located? And then depending on what those factors are, you'll know which channels that you need to focus on. Then when you know those things and what their problems are, like what is the problem that they want solved that your solution can solve, then you can take those pieces, put it together and create the best content for them. So for instance, let's use the good food, because I always use good food. I love eating healthy, but sometimes I don't have the time to be able to do it. So they've been able to put all those healthy meals in a box, don't think about the ingredients. And for a very specific monthly amount, I just get a box delivered to my door. So I get to eat healthy without thinking about it. But they know me as a person, right? They know that I'm willing to spend money on good food. I just want things easy. I like cooking myself. And so they put all of those factors into advertising that suits me. That's just going to make me say, yeah, I want this service. So you're going to have to do the very same thing for your solution so that you can think about your ideal customer and speak directly to their needs so that they say, yes, I want in, I want this solved now, and I'm willing to pay what they're asking for to be able to get it. Great question.
Let us know if you have to drop out, as we are past 8, because we have a lot more questions.
Absolutely. So I have 8 more minutes. So for those of you who still have questions and you want to stay around, I'll go to the 8 minutes and make sure we hopefully we can close things out.
Right.
Yes.
Lema has a question. Her startups still have not launched yet, and she's asking how effective it is to release content prior to launching.
Actually, Lama, that's fantastic. Honestly, teasers are amazing because what you can do is you can start dropping little nuggets and dropping little previews before it is ready and use it as lead magnets. So if there's something that you know that your product is going to be solving for people, maybe you can actually capture their interest now saying, listen, we're coming soon. But in the meantime, if you sign up for our early advanced list, we'll give you this downloadable solution or guide or checklist for being an early adopter for us. So you can actually use that to generate a lot of interest and a lot of buzz, and also grow your audience and your potential customer list very early on. I would suggest if you have a strategy to do it and you can, do it early. So yes, do not wait until your product is launched before you start creating buzz about it. Start it now, start getting people excited and engaged about what you're creating. And thanks for that question, Lama. That's a great one.
Amazing. Anonymous says, Google business page is better than landing page, like he's asking. And because he says I can get both pages or just choose one to do e-commerce and e-learning.
Got it. So Google business page is great for people to be able to find you because it's already built into SEO. And that's their goal, to make sure that you can be found. However, think about your customer. Customers will want to do a search for you. And so it's usually still good for you to have your own website and your own business and e-commerce page as well. Because what happens is people need to be able to find you. And if they just rely on just the Google business page, where's your own URL that shows that you're professional, that you have your own existing business, where you can talk about your team, where you can talk about the services or the products that you provide? You should actually have both. And again, it's really good for SEO to have the Google business one, but think about your customer. What will they look at and what will they need to be, for you to be trustworthy to them? Provide them with that information. So I hope that answers it. Think back to your customer, and that'll help you figure out which one you should have, if not both.
We have Sharif asking how to strategically plan and create content for a year.
Sharif, that's a great question. And again, you'd have to take the tools that we talked about here today. So looking at the different types of content that you have, but you have the Hootsuite, you've got Planoly, you've got Planable, Sprout Social, that will help you to literally create your content for a year and use a platform to be able to do it. So really, it's about sitting down and thinking about what are the most relevant dates and times for your customer. You'll hear me say this over and over. Always think about your customer. What's most important to them, and when are the times of years that they usually want to see your service or when they need your solution, and think of your content calendar according to their needs. And if you do that, you will be able to come up with a content calendar. Even if you don't have the specific posts, you'll be able to understand when they need you, why they need you, and create content around their needs.
Perfect. Mariam, hi Mariam. She's from #Up. She says, lovely webinar. You really hit our pain point when it comes to content creation. She's asking how much content per week is enough to keep followers engaged, especially for like really a startup with limited resources. It's really tough to keep.
Yes, absolutely, Miriam. Trust me, I'm in the same boat. I get it. So one of the things that I always suggest is a few times a week is enough to keep your audience engaged, depending on who your audience is. And I would say very early, just a little while ago, I mentioned the same thing. It is better to create high quality content than it is for you to just rush out content. So I would say, if you can, first of all, make sure you keep engaged with your audience. If they are responding to your posts, reply back. Always reply to people when they're responding to you online, so that they know that you're watching and that you're listening and that you're there for them. And I'd say at least a few times a week if you can. And again, if you can create that content and batch it up front, when you have the resources, it'll be much better. And it will seem to your audience like you're doing it in real time, even though it's not. And again, it doesn't really matter. As long as they're engaged and they're enjoying your content, then you can stick with that plan. So I'd say if it's possible, take a few hours a week, batch that content, get it ready, uploaded, so that you can then go back and actively interact and engage with your followers. And honestly, it will pay off. It really will pay off.
Amazing. Aisha's asking, how can we measure content influence on sales and revenue?
Easiest way to solve that is you can have different coupon codes or buyer codes for your platforms. And that way, when people are going to check out, you'll know which platform they're coming from. You can also use UTM codes, which also can help you understand which channels people are finding your ads or your promotions from as well. So between the discount codes and the UTM codes, you should be able to track which platforms are converting for you.
Mahmoud says, when it comes to a two-sided marketplace startup, when you introduce a service, you have two-sided customers. So what is your thoughts here when it comes to introducing the brand or a new service or feature to digital platform?
Okay, great question. So one of the things is that when you have customers on one side and then you have the content creators on the other side, everyone's always wondering which comes first, the chicken or the egg. But the truth of the matter is that you're probably going to have to start a little bit early, because to attract the customers, you need someone talking about it. So you're going to have to do a good job of finding some really engaging content creators and being able to incentivize them enough so that they are promoted to create the content, because that content is what's going to help you sell the products and sell what you're doing on the marketplace side. So I'd say start with having great content. If you can find and pull in the right engaged creators, they'll help make sure that your content stays active enough to be able to sell in the marketplace itself.
We have one more question and a raised hand, if you're willing to.
Absolutely, we've got time.
So Majdi thanks you for the amazing session, and he says, do you think that we should focus on a certain content distribution channel or platform based on the industry we're in, especially geographic locations or customers?
So it really depends on your customers. So for instance, if you're doing B2B, then usually you're going to rely on LinkedIn and Twitter. If it's more of a broader audience in B2C, then you can leverage, your Facebooks, Instagram, and WhatsApp as well. But it really does depend on where are your customers relying on their information? Where are they getting the information to inform them about your service or the problem that you're solving? And then you should start from there to understand which platforms you should be focused on. And I guess this is my way that I'll wrap up, because I have to go. For those of you who have additional questions or would like to keep in touch, I'm always available to our community for help. You can reach me at tash@tashjeffries.com. If you have any quick questions, I'd love to be able to, give you some quick feedback on what you're doing. Because I'm seeing some more questions that I don't think we're going to have time to answer. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. I really hope this was helpful. You had lots of questions, so thank you so much for being engaged. And yeah, let's see how I can continue to help moving forward. Maybe Dave, maybe a part 2.
Of course, why not?
After I get a vacation, please.
Would love to. Thank you so much for your time. Honestly, this was really
awesome.
nice.
Thank you so much. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you for the fantastic questions. It was great seeing you, and I'll see you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.